Welcome to Legal Marketing Happy Hour.
Welcome back to the Legal Marketing Happy Hour, where we serve up tactical marketing insights that help law firms grow smarter, faster, and more profitably. I'm Lindsay Marty, CEO of Above the Bar Marketing, and I'm joined by James O'Neill, Strategic Partner Account Manager at CallRail. In today's episode, we're going to kind of break down what is CallRail, how does it help law firms, and how can it be easily implemented into your firm. So, James, you have been with CallRail for how many years?
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. So, I've been with CallRail for about 5.5 years at this point. Um, Fun fact, it's the longest I've been at any company in my career. So, that speaks volumes to how much I love being here and sort of working with agencies like yourself. It really
The
is.
culture at CallRail is amazing. I can testify for that. Yes.
Yeah, it's a super fun place. Love the people I work with and the customers I get to work with as well.
So your role is to work with different agencies like Above the Bar on helping us improve our clients' ROI tracking and performance for our clients. So at Above the Bar, we have about 250 clients, and every client automatically gets call tracking, and you are our preferred vendor for call tracking, form tracking, and artificial intelligence through those models. So at a high level, can you just tell us what dynamic number insertion is as it pertains to tracking everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of people can sometimes get tripped up by when you throw like fancy words like dynamic number insertion at them
Yep.
or visitor session, and people think, oh my gosh, like that's too complicated or that's too much for me.
It sounds confusing,
Yeah.
like, or super
Yeah.
technical, and it's not.
Right, exactly. It is not confusing at all. For a small business, for an agency, it is incredibly easy to implement. And it just kind of like starts working. You don't really have to do a whole lot on your side. I think that's what separates CallRail from a lot of other solutions out there, is just how easy it is to get set up and running. But um, what dynamic number insertion is, it's our way of being able to tell you how a visitor found your website. So did they come to a landing page via an ad click, or was their search a result of your SEO efforts? Did they come organically? Was it through like a referral network, Yelp, like you name it? And the way that it really works is, so you have a group of numbers in your account, and we like to call these website pools. So like a
Hmm.
pool of numbers. And what happens is, this is sort of the technical piece behind it, but like the implementation is super easy. What happens is when a visitor comes to the website, a unique visitor, they're going to see a number from that website pool. And then that number just stays with them, um, regardless of the page that they click on. If they leave the site and then come back later, they're going to see that same phone number, just because they're cookied on the site. Um, but when they place a call or when they fill out a form submission, that unique number that's tied to their specific session allows us to then say, okay, this person called that number, and we have all of this session data assigned to this specific number. So then we can match up the caller ID and that session together, to give you the attribution data that says, oh, this person came via Google Ads, and this was their keyword, and this was their campaign, et cetera, et cetera. And then each visitor to the site gets a different number. So that's what allows us to differentiate that information, right? You can't necessarily do that if every visitor to the website has and sees the same phone number, there's just not a way for you to tell like what source drove them to the website. So that's all like it sounds very complicated, but when you set up the actual account, all that's really required is you click a few buttons to grab the numbers, and then you get a JavaScript snippet that you just pop onto your website, and then it just kind of starts working, and you kind of just start getting all of the data, and that's really the extent on like the setup piece. But a lot of people can sometimes get intimidated, and so it's just a matter of like helping them like
Yeah,
understand it.
it's actually super easy to implement. And there is just a plugin as well,
Yep.
that that is really helpful for marketers like myself. What we love about the dynamic number insertion is we can see the client's full journey of how they got to actually calling or filling out a form fill. And it's really important for us to understand where they started to where they ended and ended up calling. So with that data, we can see, for example, if a client came, was in super lawyers and clicked on an attorney bio and then called and then visited the website from the super lawyer's bio and then called from the website, we can track that back to that super lawyer's profile and say, okay, this was worth the investment because we know that the original source of the lead was, from that marketing source. So that's how, when we work with our clients, we're able to tell them that story. And then, maybe the client came back three more times to the site and called three more times. We can see that whole journey, but it will always attribute that initial source back to the original. And that's really a powerful story when you're talking to these firms, because a lot of times when they're with big box players like Fine Law or a Scorpion, they're not able to see the data that granular. They're only able to see the properties that specific company is showing them, not everything that they're investing their money in. So that's, what we really love about it as well. Let's talk about the artificial intelligence piece that you guys are continuing to expand upon, and we have started implementing it with our clients, and it's extremely helpful to identify when there's intake issues at a firm, missed calls at a firm. Maybe a receptionist is just rude and the attorneys don't know it. Things like that that you can't get without those transcripts. So tell me more about that, how far it's come in the last couple years, and yeah, anything that you want to mention about that piece.
Yeah, I think what kind of surprises most people when I tell them this is that CallRail has had a version of artificial intelligence in conversation intelligence for like 7 years at this point.
Mhm.
So now granted, 7 years ago, it was not very good. It just wasn't in the place where it is today. So, that said, it has come a long way since then. And one of the things that I think helps people kind of understand, like, what CallRail's doing is not just a flash in the pan. It's something that we've been doing for a long time and that we're really invested in continuing to um, improve, is the artificial intelligence. And so um I feel like it's becoming such a huge buzzword for people, kind of like .com was for
People are
everyone.
less scared of it, especially attorneys are always slow adapters.
That's
And
right.
it feels like it's shifting a little bit where they're like, okay, if like I'm willing to try it.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right. Yeah, it's been a huge shift. So even within the last year at CallRail, our conversation intelligence product can now automatically identify when any call ultimately results in a booked appointment. So when you're thinking about what's really an important metric for law firms is they want to know how many consultations they're booking. They want to know how many people they're getting in the door, because that is ultimately how they make money, right?
Mhm.
And so previously, you had to like identify very specific key terms and phrases in a conversation that led to that. Well, now it's in a place where we can just automatically do that on every single phone call. So now the data that you're getting, sort of back to what you mentioned of just like how it's so important to track that buyer journey and understand like, how qualified that they are as a lead. Well, this just gives us like that extra layer that tells us of all of the different sources driving phone calls or form submissions to our business, um, which of those sources is actually bringing in leads that are booking appointments. And that's where we start to unlock a lot of the true value behind CallRail, because now you go from this space where maybe we were just measuring the total quantity of calls from specific sources and then saying like, oh, let's spend more on Google ads or let's spend more on Facebook ads or whatever that looks like because we're getting the most calls from those sources. So now we can give you the data that says X percentage of calls from Google ads resulted in a booked appointment and Y percentage of calls from Facebook ads results in a booked appointment. And that just
Mhm.
increases like the granularity that you get that you mentioned before, where you can really start to shift the marketing spend into the sources that are driving the most booked appointments, because we know that those are high intent, high quality leads. They're actually like scheduling consultations, right? So that's sort of the major shift, but there's so much more that we're doing, and it's like every day there's some new release or update to the product that even I find it difficult to stay on
Yeah.
top of. So it's pretty cool stuff.
It's really transformed our reporting for our clients that utilize the conversation intelligence. I mean, we're able to get so granular using our own AI tools to create extremely custom reports saying, these are the times of day that you're missing calls. These are the days that most calls go to voicemail. So, they can transform and make the changes that they need to for their intake process. That's like it's invaluable information. And like I said, it happens more times than you think that there's uh, an intake specialist at a firm that either doesn't really understand what they practice or is just kind of snippy and rude and misses the consultation. So there's just like coaching opportunities that are amazing as well. And for us to help them uncover some of that, it it helps us be the true consultative agency that we want to be instead of just like vanity metrics, here you go. So another feature that I think is fairly new is the voice connect. I don't believe we have any clients using it yet, but tell us about it because I want to learn more, and I'm sure some of our listeners would love to hear more too.
Yeah, actually, so we've worked on a couple above the bar folks that have it. So it's been fun. So um about a year ago we launched our voice assist AI receptionist product.
Okay.
And um the data that we've seen and the success that we've seen from it has uh, it's been incredible. It's outpaced, adoption of any other like new product we've ever launched before. And so, um, we see like a real need for something like this on the market because businesses don't really understand how many calls that they actually miss. Um,
Mhm.
And I think that's probably the most glaring blind spot that these firms and businesses in general have when it comes to, their day-to-day operations. We actually saw so CallRail, we work with over 220,000 small businesses. So we have a lot of data to look at and
Yeah.
reference. And so we saw just across our customer base, on average, 28% of calls go miss. Like that's a staggering amount
Just
of phone calls
across all industries.
across all industries, which is just it doesn't make sense to me, that 1 in 4 calls would go missed. And it's pretty crazy when you start to frame it of like you already paid for this lead to come into your business,
Mhm. Yeah.
and you just didn't answer the phone.
Mhm.
So what it really does and what it helps with is, during those business hours, any call that would come in that the firm would otherwise miss. So we call those overflow calls. The agent can pick up that call. And what it does is it performs the same level of intake, if you want it to, as a normal person would. But the AI agent doesn't have any bad days. There's no mood to it, right? So it's always pretty consistent when it does things like that. But it will perform intake. It will then qualify that lead for us. So it sort of helps filter out kind of the junk from the good leads, ultimately, when we're reviewing the information it captures. And then from there, it can even start to help schedule appointments directly on the calendar based on sort of live lead fit. So if this person is qualified, if they fit within sort of the criteria of the services that the firm offers, they're in the correct location, they have an immediate need, like the urgency piece. It can start to offer up hey, here's a link that you can go click on and self schedule, or I can help you do that directly on, the calendar, or we can pass along your information. So it kind of fills this void that businesses didn't know that they had.
Yep.
It can help with the after hours as well. So a lot of firms can now
Yeah,
say,
I was
hey,
just gonna mention the call flows. That's another really unique feature that we use at Above the Bar as well. The ability for a firm to custom create their call flows and phone trees and answering after hours. For solo criminal guys, it's awesome to send to their cell phone at certain times of the day, while they might be in court. They can just download the app and easily change it and then call back from the call tracking number so it's not showing their cell phone. So there's just so many cool features for, law firms, lawyers in specific. And since we mostly work with solo and small firms, it's like an ideal fit for something like that. And the dashboard is so easy to read and navigate. You guys are constantly improving the reporting through it. So, yeah, in terms of intake overall front to end, it's an amazing tool. Well, that's it for today's episode of Legal Marketing Happy Hour. Big thanks to James O'Neill from CallRail for joining us to talk about how call tracking helps law firms better understand marketing performance and client conversion. To learn more about Above the Bar Marketing, visit abovethebarmarketing.com. And to learn more about CallRail and call tracking solutions for your growing business, visit callrail.com. And don't forget to leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.